Hi, my name is Deborah Brown Hopkins, and I was born in Washington, D.C. I began school in pre K and attended the same school until first grade. What I can say is that I attended 12 schools by the time I finished high school because we moved around a lot. Let's see, I think I remember my first grade teacher's name was Miss Painter. And my mother took me for a placement test probably when I was about 5 years old. And I tested gifted, and that earned me a scholarship so that I could go to private school. So she sent me to Georgetown Day School for 2 years. And while I did well academically, socially, and culturally, I hated it. Um, this was during the civil rights movement, in which my family was very active and I was very much affected by that. The school that I went to was a predominantly white middle and upper class, uh, consisted of predominantly white middle and upper class students and faculty. And they just seemed like they had no connection to the experience that I was having at home. Consequently, the educational atmosphere seemed superficial and had no relevance to my life. So after that second year, I asked my mother to remove me from that school. Lucky for me, she obliged me. Um, and let's see, fourth grade, I attended a public school in our new neighborhood named Amadon because of teacher strikes. And my mother sent me to Ohio to stay with my father, and I attended school there for a half year. And then that summer went back to DC, but then the teachers went on strike again, so she sent me back to Ohio. So, but my mother and father's outlook on education and on me seemed quite different. My father emphasized the importance of earning good grades and would punish me if I came home with anything less than a B. And, as a child, I really interpreted that as that he didn't really love me if I didn't get good grades, that his love was attached to my performance. And so I did well in school there, but I didn't really emotionally, um, I think I wasn't doing a really good job with my father. I was so happy when it was time to go back to stay with my mother. So I went back to DC, but my mother remarried. And when she remarried, she moved to Colorado. And she went like in 6 months and set everything up for me and my sister to come with her. So we stayed with my aunt for 6 months, and I went to yet another school called Bunker Hill Elementary School, I think it was. So when we moved to Colorado, the end of that school year, we were in Thornton, Colorado, which was completely devoid of culture. But luckily, we only stayed there for 1 year, and we went back to DC. By that time, I was in seventh grade in junior high school, and for the first time, I had a lot of friends and loved junior high school. But my mother had divorced and left her job in order to do it, in order to leave her husband. And so we, she was looking for work and she found it. Took her about a year, but she found it and she found work in New York. So since she found work in New York, she packed us up and moved me to New Jersey, where we had family. So we stayed there for about 4 years, and during that time, I really I joined some drama clubs, and so that's where my early experience in theater and acting took place. So, but my early exposure to theater was my mother taking us to plays, and there was a theater company in town called the Black Repertory Theater. And that theater was always socially relevant. It was about the strivings of black people. So that was of interest to me, and it impacted me deeply. Uh, so being in drama club, I really enjoyed it, but those plays had absolutely no social relevance. And by high school, when I did but the highlight was in eighth grade. I played this character called Ludi in this play that we did called Nuts and Bolts, and I did so well. I got a standing ovation, and so that was exciting for me. Um, but that kind of was my goal where acting was concerned. It was something I wanted to do. I wanted to do it well. I wanted to get a standing ovation, and so it happened in eighth grade. But when I got to ninth grade, I started to study Shakespeare, and it was good for me in high school because we could choose our classes. So where before school just seemed like this thing that we had to do, then I started to become more interested in it because I could choose what I was studying. I remember choosing this course. It was a social studies class called Future Shock. And so I remember we studied this school called School Without Walls, which was this new paradigm where learning didn't just happen in the confines of four walls. Students could go different places and study. And we also studied this planned city because this was the future. This city was called Columbia, Maryland, and all of that was really interesting to me. My Shakespeare class, that instructor was also happened to be the drama teacher. And so I joined that drama club, and we did a play called, I think it was Guys and Dolls. And that was pretty much the end of my acting, my, I guess, mainstream acting career, because no social relevance whatsoever, total fluff. And I was not interested in theater in that context anymore. But when we moved, interestingly, we moved to Columbia, Maryland, and I ended up going to School Without Walls. Wow. School Without Walls was exactly what they said. I took, for example, a zoology class at the zoo. Nobody was looking over my shoulder, in terms of attendance. I had to take the bus to get to my classes. Maybe one or two of my classes I took in the school building, but other than that, it was all going different places and going to those sites to study. So that was I enjoyed the autonomy. I enjoyed that my education seemed relevant to my life. I enjoyed that I would be, in the city. I enjoyed being trusted. I enjoyed the independence, and I did rise to the occasion. That school, I had to write an essay to get into the school. I remember the principal was really strict, and she had a really only would accept students who were committed to excellence. So, I think with higher expectations, I rose to that occasion. Um, but I would have to say that the primary influence of my life where education is concerned was School Without Walls and my family. Because my mother talked to me a lot. She talked to me and she listened to me. And she did a lot to really help me understand and navigate my emotions, to process them, to understand what they were saying to me, um, to figure out how to respond, beyond my emotions, and then make choices about what I wanted to do. Today they call that emotional intelligence, and it's a hot topic in business. But my mother was the one that gave me that education, and my family members really talked about what was going on, socially a lot. So I would say that my passion for education came from my family, and my grandfather, who probably had like a sixth or seventh grade education. During his time, I think that was the highest that the educational system in the United States went, except for a really small elite of people. But he always had a book in his hand, and whatever he was reading was something he was planning to apply to some project he had going on. So I think that's where my love for education came from. In terms of my education at Ashford, I've earned a bachelor's degree in public relations and marketing at Ashford University. I graduated cum laude with that. Whoop, whoop. I earned a master's degree in organizational management and leadership, and now I'm pursuing my master of education degree. And I expect to specialize in reading literacy and probably curriculum and instruction. I've got to tell you, I have so many different interests. culturally responsive education. I'm interested in that. Um, but I can't study everything. I mean, I can, but I don't have to get a degree in everything. But what I am planning to do with my education is continue to build and grow my organization. Um, a lot of what we do is teach using the arts as a primary medium. So not only is it an arts organization, it's an activist organization. Social justice is a passion of mine, and working in communities. So I'm interested in making education relevant for children. You know, there's a lot of talk about the disparity in education, and so I'm interested in doing the work to help close that disparity. I suspect that a lot of it is kind of what I was going through, where just education, the way that it was delivered, was not probably ideal for who I was. Um, and it just wasn't interesting. Like, you know, and if you can never answer the question, what does this have to do with my life, then you lose a lot of people. So that's me. My name is Deborah Brown Hopkins, and I'm looking forward to my time in this class. Thank you.